Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Tuesday, the 20th of January. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Blair Malloy. How goes it, Blair?
Good morning, Derek, and good morning to everyone in the comments. It feels like ages since Rangers have played. I don't know about these Friday night games. It feels like it's been about a week since I last seen the team because it kicks off your weekend. I'm used to talking about them from a Saturday or a Sunday, but it's got to Tuesday now, and I'm really ready for another game. So, thankfully Thursday isn't too far away to see the team again.
Yes, surely Rangers get their first 3 points in the Europa League group stage, surely. If you're looking for a bit of insight, incidentally, folks, on Ludo Goretz, I did speak to a Bulgarian football journalist. We've had him on before when he gave us some insight into Jose Cordoba, which never materialised in the end, but yet he's told us what we can expect on Thursday. You can go and check that out. That'll be available to everyone at 12 noon. This afternoon. Before we get stuck in, a quick word for our podcast sponsors, Willows Fencing, as ever, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust, proud partners of the Rangers Review. They've got over 20 years of experience in the fencing trade. No job is too big or too small for these guys. They offer free consultations and 10% off with the code Rangers Review over on their website, willows-fencing.com. The all-important links are in the description below this video. Right, so yes, Rangers back in European action on Thursday. Transfers, of course, in the transfer window is edging ever closer to being slam shut, the old proverbial term. And Rangers have already brought in 3 players, Blair, and 3 players of note, I would say, as well. They're certainly spending a bit of cash in this window. Now, Chris had a piece on the website yesterday. I'd urge you to go and check it out, folks. It's very well written, as ever, from Mr. CJ, and we had him on our transfer show yesterday evening as well to discuss the state of play and where Rangers are likely to move next. And sort of the noise at this point in time is that we should be perhaps expecting some players to be sent away from the club this week as opposed to incomings. We've seen Lyle Cameron head out the door to Pittodrie on loan. Oscar Cortez is headed out the door, albeit he wasn't really part of the first team plans anyway. Need a few more heading out, Blair, don't we?
Yeah, before we get into that, I do enjoy these transfer window terms that pop up only during this time. Of course, the window never just shuts; it always slams shut.
Yeah. Have you ever slammed a window shut, Blair?
I don't think I've ever slammed a window shut. I think it'd be very reckless and careless, to be honest, to start slamming windows shut. It's also always in hot pursuit. I enjoy that one. Always hot pursuit of players, which the newspapers love. It's always good fun this time of year. In terms of outgoings, I think it's necessary to get some players out the door if you're going to bring some players in. I think that was always going to be the case for Rangers this window. I think it's probably more likely loan deals. That's the way it's been going so far. Obviously, we've seen Lyle Cameron heading up to Aberdeen to get some game time. Interesting from him that he's not too sure where his sort of long-term future lies. So we'll see where that one develops and goes beyond this season. Obviously, there's a few names that have been bandied about all window. Clinton and Ciala maybe heading out on loan to get some first team football. I think that would be good for him. I think we've obviously seen him the other night against Annan, but I don't think he's massively in the first team picture. So I think from his perspective, it'd be good to go out and get a little bit of first team football. And then, of course, the big one that everyone really has been talking about is Finlay Curtis. That's been the name on a lot of people's lips, whether he would stay, whether he would go out and get some football, and what his future holds. I think I spoke to Chris after the Annan game on Friday. We both agreed, and I think everyone agreed in the press room, that Finlay Curtis played really well. I think he looked good. I think he looked very creative now, albeit with respect to the level of opponent, it is only Annan. So you would expect players to look good in that environment, but still you have to play against what's in front of you, and you have to put on a performance. And I think Finlay Curtis did that well. He was unlucky not to score, actually. He hit the bar himself that evening and set up a couple too. So I think he played really well in the night. I don't think it'll change Danny Rule's mind in terms of sending him out on loan. I think that's probably still on the agenda for Finlay Curtis in this window. I'd like to see him go out, and well, two aspects to that, Derek. I think I'd like to see him go out to the highest level possible, whether that be Premier League. I'd like to go and see him playing at a competitive team. I'd like to go and see him playing against the most competitive teams to really get him that match team experience. But also, with the same hand, I'd like to say I want him to see him playing every week. I don't want him to go to a team that's maybe too competitive for him and he's not starting. I think if you're sending Finlay Curtis out on loan, you're sending him out to be a starter somewhere, because that's what I think he needs at this point. I think he needs months of consistent football. I think he needs to find this position. I think he needs to learn this position. And I have every faith that Finlay Curtis could come back and be a first team player for Rangers. I don't think this is one of those ones where you're shipping him out on loan because you're prolonging the inevitable of selling him. I think this is one where you're going, look, the team's pretty good just now. Skov Olsen's come in, who is, by all accounts, if this move works out as we spoke about all last week, he's going to be a game-changing signing for Rangers, and he's going to be the main man. So Curtis is going to find it even harder to get in this team, given the quality of wingers on either side. So if he gets 6 months of football in his legs, he learns his position, he learns his craft a little bit more, and I think that consistent playing week in, week out will be invaluable. I don't see any reason why he can't come back next year and be one of the guys who's challenging for the first team.
Yep, I totally agree with you on that one. I thought he did well in his previous outing, obviously against Annan, and there's a comment coming in there saying play him on Thursday. I would have no qualms about playing him on Thursday. Let's be honest, 2 games against Ludogorets and Porto. It's all about pride at this point in time. Someone said yesterday, and I totally get it, coefficient points, yes, but in the grand scheme of things, it's been an absolutely horrific Europa League campaign. So it's 2 of the games to possibly give players opportunities. The league is the utmost priority for Rangers at this point in time. The game at the weekend is by far the bigger game of the 2. So experiment on Thursday night, who knows. Carol Cowie gets in touch. She says, Derek, will Cameron be back home? Well, that's an interesting one, because as we touched on Lyle Cameron yesterday on the show, he gave that interview to Aberdeen's TV channel, and he says he's not too sure what his future holds at this point in time. He was signed when Philip Clement was the manager, and then of course Russell Martin came in, didn't fancy him. Danny Rule hasn't fancied him, so who knows really. I think if he goes up there, Blair, and I think he'll have a great time up there. I think he's a really good player, incidentally. I mean, he showed it the weekend, man of the match display in his first outing. I think he's immediately, for me, Aberdeen's best player. I think he's going to do well. I think he's itching for game time. Goes up there, has a decent end of the season, comes back and maybe stake a claim. Your thoughts on Lyle Cameron? I've got to be honest here. I know he said it himself. He has had some niggling injuries as well. I thought we'd see a lot more of him, but you've got to trust, I guess, the manager at the helm. He's seen him in training every single day, and he doesn't deem him good enough to feature for his first team at this point.
Yeah, I think I said it on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I personally really like Lyle Cameron. I really like him as a player. I really like him as a person. I think he's a really nice, humble boy, and in terms of technical ability, I thought he was good at the start of the season. I thought he added something that Rangers didn't really have. I thought he added a little bit of dynamism, and I always thought he was a good option off the bench. Even I thought he could add something, but at the same time, we're now at a point where you've looked at what Danny Rule has done in the last 4 or 5 months. You've looked at the turnaround that he's performed with this team, and you have to trust him. You have to trust him to make these decisions, because it's not up to me. It's not up to you. It's not up to any of us to make these hard calls. It's not up to any of us to pick the team. It's not up to any of us to look at the players every day and go, you will fit what I need you to do. Danny Rule knows what he needs these players to do, and he's getting things out of these players that none of us could have seen imaginable. A lot of us would have cast aside a lot of the players that Danny Rule is now getting a tune out of. So I don't think just because the fans like a player, just because the fans see something in a player, it's one of those ones where you just go, look, you have to trust the manager right now, and let him make that own decision. Similar to Curtis, though, I know that the way it's been presented as Lyle Cameron is now really finished at Rangers, but I don't think that's the case at all. I think that it's another one where if he goes up and he puts in performances like he did on his debut, obviously man of the match, starting up there. If he plays like that for 6 months, again, there will be a clamour for him to come back and be competing for a first team place, because you're never really sure of how the trajectory of players are going to go. You're never really sure of how vastly players are going to improve, depending on who they're playing under, where they're playing. If Lyle Cameron goes up there, and I agree with you, Derek, I think he goes up there and instantly improves their team tenfold. He instantly makes them a lot better, because I know there's been a bit of off-field noise about Aberdeen fans maybe not wanting to loan a player from, I would say, Rangers, but they also did that banner just saying no old firm loans. But if you look at it in the cold light of day, if Aberdeen sign Lyle Cameron from Dundee as one of the hottest young midfielders in Scotland, all the fans are raving about it. None of them have got a problem with it. It's not the player they've got a problem with. It's the context with which the signing was a problem with. And it is a minority. I'll say that. It is a small amount, because I think a lot of the level-headed Aberdeen fans will look at that and go, that's a really good signing, and that's something that we really need in this team. So I think that 6 months of good football under his belt, playing well for Aberdeen, I think will only do Lyle Cameron good. I think he's a starter every week there, which I think he's really been missing. I know anecdotally I've heard that he just wants to play football. That's all he's after. He just wants to get on the park. He's desperate to play, and fair play to him. He just wants to go out there and just start playing his football. So I think similar to Finlay Curtis, he goes up there and he plays for 6 months, comes back in the summer, he can really start to fight for his place, and he has to take it as a personal challenge to go, all right, Danny, you didn't fancy me this time, well, watch what I'm going to do for 6 months, and you might fancy me in the summer. That's how he has to look at it. And if he comes back with that attitude and that fight and drive, again, I can't see any reason why we can't be talking about Lyle Cameron again. The other proverbial, he'll be like a new signing when he comes back in June.
Yep. Get your questions in, folks, to myself and Blair, and we'll try and get through a number of them. I wanted to touch on this lad because there's a bit of noise around him. He's been excelling for Motherwell. He's away with Zimbabwe at AFCON, Blair, as well. It's the winger Tawanda Maswanhise. I've seen that in the AFCON sort of player awards. He was awarded with the, let me see here, what was he given? The Most Promising Talent Award. He netted that gong at the end of what was a mental final at the weekend. But interest in him, of course, you've seen lots of clubs said to be sniffing about him. Now, as we understand it, no contact between Rangers and Motherwell, but he is a player that a lot of people are talking about, Blair. Have you seen much of him? Is he a player that you would like to see, perhaps, at Ibrox? He's 23, of course, been at Motherwell since August 2024, arrived from Leicester City, and I think Motherwell will do well to hold on to him.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a story, Derek. It was last season when I was doing the rounds working in Scottish football, covering a Motherwell game, and I was there. I think it was Motherwell Kilmarnock, something like that. Don't quote me on that, but I was in the stand getting ready, doing my sort of pre-match stuff before ready to do all my reports, and the Motherwell press boy came up to me and he said, "Oh, we've just made a signing," and you know what it's like, a signing 2 hours before kickoff. This is all we need. This is something brand new. So this wasn't in the plans. And he says, it's this boy we've signed on loan from England. It's brought up from England. He was out of contract. He looks really good. And I was like, all right, okay. He comes on that day and he looks electric. And it is, of course, Tawanda Maswanhise. And I was looking at him going, wow, this could be a find. And I remember seeing him for about a half that day, and he just looked so quick. He looked so dynamic. He looked rough. He looked rough and ready. He looked really raw. But at the same time, you know that way, I know we might come on to talk about him later on in Ham's Iggerman, but you know that way that you look at a player and from his very first touch, you think, he's got something. I don't know what it is, but he's definitely got something. And I remember watching him that day thinking he's going to do something up here. And he kicked on a little bit last year. It was kind of a little bit of an up and down season, but he's really, really pushed his career on this year. And obviously, Motherwell are playing some fantastic stuff this year. They're playing some of the best football in the division under Jens Berthel-Askew, who, by the way, I don't think will be there for long. I think in the summer, a bigger club will come up and take him. But he really seems to be the next one in this line of Motherwell strikers who's going to go for a good bit of money, and it's a good production line that they've got going there. In terms of whether he'll come to Rangers or indeed Celtic, I think, although we believe there's no contact between the clubs, I do think it would be a mistake for Rangers and Celtic not to have him on their radar at least. I think that both clubs will be looking at this guy who is banging them in Scotland. I think he's get 15 for the season now. Like you said, he obviously played pretty well over in the AFCON as well. I think he's a really dynamic player. I think he's got a lot of the, if I can compare him to a past player, I think he's got a lot of the Nacho Novos about him. As a sort of a little striker coming in from a slightly smaller team in Scotland, would be really nippy in and around the box. I don't think he's a target man. I don't think he would lead your line. I don't think he's a sort of replacement for a Chermiti and a Majowski, for example. But I think that playing in around that front three, I imagine him rotating with Mikey Moore being in that sort of in the wee pockets. I think he could do a real good job for Rangers. So I would like to think that he's on the radar of Rangers and Celtic, and I think that the way things are going now, the way things are operating at Rangers, and it seems to be operating a bit more professionally, that somebody will have scouted him and somebody will have said, look, this boy's obviously doing some good work. In terms of will he leave Motherwell this window, I don't know. It depends if they get the right offer. I don't think Motherwell are any rush to sell. I was watching Sports Scene on Saturday night. Stephen O'Donnell was one of the guests on that. He was saying, look, we've got him tied down in a couple of years. We're not worried about him leaving anytime soon. But obviously, if something comes in and tests a lot with big money, Motherwell being the club that they are obviously going to accept that and back themselves to find the next one. So I think if he doesn't go to indeed Rangers or Celtic, I think he's one that will go down south and you see him doing well. Championship, maybe even bottom end of the Premier League in time to come, and you'll go, we should have probably taken a gamble on him when he was here.
Yeah, I think when you start doing the business in big tournaments like AFCON and winning awards in that, then it's only natural that clubs are going to be sniffing about you. So Celtic said to have scouted him. It remains to be seen if what can be done on that one. But a number of players that have been linked, of course, to Rangers in this window. I love this. Stephen gets in touch. He says, been listening to you guys in the car for over a year now, and this is the first time I've seen your faces. Derek was the biggest surprise. He sounds like an old man, but obviously he's not. Looks nothing like I expected. Great podcast, lads. So there you go. I sound like an old man. Thank you, Stephen, for tuning in. I can only imagine the shock on your face as you've seen our faces for the first time. But there you go. Do let us know if you see the faces of Johnny, Chris, and Joshua. If that is a big surprise as well. But there you go.
Yes, let us know your opinion on everybody's looks and hairstyles. I'm sure that'll be brilliant for everyone's self-confidence.
Oh, dearie me. Right, let's move on to a little bit of news from Chris yesterday. Very busy man at this point in time is Chris Jack. Piece on the website regarding Ibrox and a six-figure proposal for the renovation of several sites in and around Ibrox is set to progress after being given the supporters sign-off at the first approval stage. Now, as we reported last month, Club 1872 held discussions with Andrew Kavanagh and the Rangers hierarchy over plans to restore areas and items of historical significance for the benefit of fans. So it's following a consultation survey, of course. And Club 1872 gave members a chance to shape a series of heritage projects in and around the stadium with the board as well. Now, as part of the deal, the fan organisation will also have the opportunity to invest in future rounds of fundraising to increase their shareholding. Now, one area of proposed restoration is the three rooms, trophy room, blue room and manager's office at the top of the famous marble staircase to improve lighting, preserve artefacts and upgrades to the fabric of each space, as well as work on the paintings in the blue room. So there you go. Conservation and restoration of the Lion Crest mosaic at both ends of the main stand, and work on the entrance porch mosaic is also on the agenda, as well as a structural engineering assessment to define the scope for future preservation and restoration of the iconic Archibald Leach structure. Now, there's a number of other improvements planned. The John Gregg statue could receive a protective wax coating. The same treatment could also be applied to the Walter Smith statue alongside a new lighting installation. Members have been given their approval to plans following a vote in recent weeks. Work will begin in finalising costs and get projects underway as Club 1872 and the Ibrox board continue to work together for the benefit of supporters. So a number of works will be taking place in the stadium. Good to see, Blair. Always good to sort of bring it up to scratch because with each passing day, there's wear and tear, of course. It is an iconic stand and stadium, so it's good to see that Rangers are looking to, bring it up, give it a big old spring clean, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good initiative between the club and obviously the supporters group as well. I think it's probably well needed. In terms of any big club, you need to constantly be progressing off the park. You need to constantly be looking after the stadium. Obviously, it means a lot to all of us, a lot to all of Rangers fans. And we want to see it kept in the best possible order. We want to see it restored to the best possible order. And I think as long as it's done in the correct manner, it's done with respect and it's done in the right tone, I don't think anybody wants to see Ibrox entirely renovated and entirely changed, because you look at some of these stadiums down in England, you look at some of these new builds stadiums, and they're always a bit soulless, they're always a bit empty, they're always feeling a little bit heartless. And I think that's one thing that Ibrox really does have. One thing that Ibrox always has is that charm and that appeal of one of these old stadiums. It has that history, it has that little bit of magic about it, and I don't think anybody would want to see that go. But I do think that you can maintain that while also keeping it up to a standard. You can also keep it up to keeping in touch with modern fittings, because you don't want to see it become dilapidated. You don't want to see it become old. I was a couple of years ago. I went to an AC Milan game in the San Siro, and it's a bit of a pilgrimage going to the San Siro. It's something that I recommend every football fan should do. It's just such an iconic stadium, but with the greatest will in the world, it was falling apart. And I don't think anybody who's been to the San Siro would disagree. You've got water pouring in from all angles. It's crumbling away underneath you. It was getting to the point where it wasn't really fit for purpose. So I would hate to see Ibrox become that just because we like it as it is. I'd like to see it kept in touch with all the modern trappings of a modern stadium, while still retaining all the tradition that Ibrox has. Like you said, the mosaics and such like that. All these just being restored, just being touched up a little bit, just being kept fresh, so that the next generation of Rangers fans can enjoy them, just as punters of years gone by always have done. But I always think that doing little bits to the stadium, the seats are a good one. I always think that you will watch those videos that pop up online of the seat restoration is always very therapeutic. I think those would be a good idea. Just little things like that. To keep the stadium up to scratch and to keep it in keeping with a modern stadium, because it's always good as well when you invite European away fans, when you invite big travelling supporters. They want to come over and you want them to be impressed by your stadium. You want them to feel like they're in something that, one, has that atmosphere, has that history of a really famous old stadium, but also feels like a comfortable place to be, feels like a nice place to be. And I think that you can strike that balance, and it really fills me with confidence, the fact that Andrew Kavanagh is interested in doing these things, that he wants to do these things. It's on a bit of a lower scale, but you look at what the Manchester City group did with that area of Manchester when they took over there. They basically renovated that entire area, which was it was an area with not a lot of money in it, with an area that was a little bit run down. And they went, you know what, we're going to completely change this area in a way that maybe the council haven't done or the government haven't done. And I think that on a lesser extent, Kavanagh obviously wants to do that round about Ibrox, inside Ibrox, and I think that's only good for everybody. And I commend them for wanting to improve the club and wanting to leave it in a better place than they found it on the pitch and both off the pitch as well.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully they get Senga Murray back in to finish some of the murals in there with the paintings. We had interviewed her a good few years ago now. Really fascinating story over on the website. You can go and check it out, folks. But hopefully she can return and finish. Will continue where she left off. And looking to see it getting spruced up. There's a point that just on looking nothing like I sound. Darren gets in touch. He says, Mr. Clark always reminds me of a sergeant major in a Scottish regiment. So there you go. Don't have I'm never been in the armed forces. My little brother is in the army, incidentally. So maybe something there. What was I going to say? Other bits of news, yes, other bits and pieces that are coming in. Incidentally, folks, thank you for those of you that are flagging some absolute head case that keeps infiltrating the chat. I've blocked him 3 times. He keeps creating a new username and infiltrating. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled on the comments if he comes back in. Yeah, absolute nut job, but we'll block him if he reappears. This has seen Blair, which is bad news for this lad. Lewis says Hamza done his ACL. I've seen that, of course, as we touched on earlier on. Morocco losing that African Cup of Nations final against Senegal, and yeah, he's done his ACL. It was confirmed yesterday. Going to miss the World Cup, which is a huge blow for Hamza.
Yeah, it's I will be watching a bit of the game, and he obviously came off injured. It's a really unlucky for Hamza Gaman. I know he didn't leave Rangers in the best of circumstances. I know he left under a little bit of a cloud, and it maybe tarnished a few people's view of him when he left the team. It's one of those ones where you never like to see that happen to a player, and especially if he did have some Rangers connections. I think it's really, really unfortunate timing for him. Obviously, the circumstances of the game, I don't know if you watched that AFCON final, it was maybe the most insane ending to a game I've ever seen in my life.
The penalty is just, he's been told, hasn't he, just to give that back to the goalie.
Do you think so? You think
I'm
this
not
is
having that. I'm not having
the conspiracy?
He's missed on purpose.
Oh, I've not thought about that way, Derek.
Look,
to be
look
honest,
at the Senegal players. None of them. I mean, if you're facing a penalty and then deep into stoppage time, none of them celebrate and go mad, do they? It just looks a bit off.
I'm going to go down a rabbit hole on the internet and start exploring that before the day is out. Yeah, it's an absolute mental end to the game. And obviously, you've got the World Cup on the horizon. You've got Morocco in Scotland's group. You would have to imagine that Hamza Egeman would have fancied his chances to be playing there, obviously playing against some of his old teammates as well, and now that's entirely in doubt. I don't know the recovery time from an ACL, obviously, in terms of the severity of it, but I'd find it really hard to believe he'll be back for the World Cup now, given we're only, 5 months away, 5-6 months away now. And if he's picked up that injury, really unlucky for him, really unlucky for the lad, because from what I've seen in little fits and starts, he's looked pretty good for Leo. He showed a bit of what he showed at Rangers, so hopefully he can get his career back up and running after that injury. I don't want to see him off the park for too long.
Yeah. Just a heads up, you've got a great piece with Stephen Davis coming out on the website, Blair. What can people expect? Of course, he drew the Scottish Cup round over the weekend, drawing Rangers at home. Well done, Davo. They will be playing Stranraer or Queen's Park. I'm already quaking in my boots at the prospect of the Spiders pitching back up at Ibrox, but I think they'll take care of business this time around if they do get the better of Stranraer. But what can people expect from your sit down with the former Rangers captain?
Yeah, a little bit of PTSD from seeing Queen's Park
Yes.
from that Ibrox in the Scottish Cup. Yep, it's out right now actually. As this clock strikes 10,
there you go.
It is out at 10 a.m. So you can go and read it as soon as we're off here. You can go and read it. Yeah, I was really fortunate to go and sit down with Stephen Davis. People of my age, and certainly maybe of yourself as well, Derek. Stephen Davis was one of my idols growing up. He was an iconic player of all the teams that I watched as I was growing up a Rangers fan, an absolute Rolls Royce of a footballer, and I can confirm an absolute gentleman into the bargain as well. A nicer man in football you will never meet. Stephen Davis. He sat down, spoke to him for about 20 minutes on all things about Rangers, on Danny Rose title chances, on the January business. We did a big feature, and this is what was on the website, all about the number 6, the sort of defensive midfielder, and Davis's take on how Rangers haven't really replaced him, or as I put it to him, that they haven't really replaced him. He was far too humble to say that, but yeah, it's a big talk on how his position transitioned from being a winger under Walter Smith, a little bit of some anecdotes of being put in the team there under Walter, and then moving back to that sort of central midfield role where he talked about what it takes to play that role for Rangers, what it takes to dictate the game and really set the tempo. I asked him a little bit about Conor Barron, how he sees his development, how he's playing, and just how he thinks Rangers are going at the minute. So it was a really good chat. I'm really fortunate to sit down and speak to him. Stephen, if you're watching, thanks a lot for your time. Thanks a lot for chatting to me. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, it's on the website just now. So if anyone wants to go and read it, I would be massively appreciative. It is a good read. I'm pretty proud of it myself. I feel like I've captured what he was all about. Again, thanks to Stephen Davis for his time, for sitting down and chatting with me and the Rangers Review.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Right, folks, that will do us there. Just a heads up of what is to come. I don't think we've got any scheduled videos today. We'll do the Ludo Goretz chat. That'll be with you at 12
We've
noon.
always got scheduled videos, Dave. Always get scheduled videos.
Yeah, they make us work for a living. So
videos coming out for years in January. They never stop.
A heads up as well, folks. We've got a very special interview coming your way in the next few days. It might be out on the weekend. I'm going to be speaking to former Rangers defender Sergio Perini. So we'll get his thoughts on his career, fantastic career in the game, not only in at Ibrox, of course, where he won countless trophies, but also in Italy, where he was part of that tremendous Juventus side in the 90s. So, it's going to be interesting getting his thoughts on Rangers and beyond. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Tomorrow morning, I'm scheduled to be on with Stevie at 9:30 as ever. So we'll chat again then. If we don't speak to you later on, then enjoy your Tuesday, whatever you are up to, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.